So today we are reviewing the third chapter of ESL. The name is Linear Methods for Regression. So first of all, let's see what is linear regression. So we are to calculate a function which will be y equal to fx equal to beta naught plus j equal to 1 to p xj beta j. Now, what is beta 0? The intercept. Okay. And every beta j you are looking at here is corresponding to a p. Now you have p variables in your data. So for each of those variables in your data, a beta will be calculated. Now the whole linear regression function then would look like this. Now how do you solve the linear regression problem? You use something called residual sum of squares. Now xt into y minus x beta equal to 0. Now you have your data. This is your data. Y minus x into beta. Now what is y minus x into beta? X beta would give you the predicted y. So you have some beta which you will be calculating here, all these betas, and those will be multiplied by x, and then this will be your predicted value. Now y minus your predicted value, this is your residual, and xt you are multiplying. Now this is equal to 0. Now you need to solve for this beta. Now you see the formula for beta is this. We can derive this beta from here. How? First of all, you multiply here xt into y minus xt x beta. You have there xt x beta. You take it on this side of the equation. You multiply inverse on both sides. You will get beta equal to xt x inverse xt into y. Now this guy right here is also called H, hat matrix, because it puts a hat on your beta. Now first property of RSS is that they are orthogonal. The residual sum of squares are orthogonal to your data. Let's see why, because this is a quite an important property of RSS. Now y hat is equal to x into beta hat. So this is your predicted variable. You have some set of y's. For your data you have what is the predicted value, and okay, sorry, this is the ground truth and this is your predicted value. So you get the residual, and now residual sum of squares. So this is your residual, it is squared, and for each of the variable you get this out. Now this is represented like this. Now how do you test the orthogonality of two matrices? So your RSS are orthogonal to X. How do you understand that if that is true or not? You take their dot product, you multiply xt x transpose with the residual squares, and now if this answer is equal to 0, then you say that okay, the matrices are orthogonal to each other. Now this guy right here is equal to what? Y minus x beta. So xty equal minus xtx beta hat. Now xty minus xtx inverse xty. Now where does this guy come from? We already have derived beta cap here. Okay, so now this beta hat is put here. So first of all, these two guys get cancelled. Then xty minus xty, we finally get 0. So RSS, residual sum of squares, is orthogonal to your data. That is one of the property that we need to understand about linear regression. Now once we have understood linear regression, there are many twists that we can do on linear regression. Now first one is that you can do some subset selection. Now what is subset selection? Now not all of your variables are going to be very good for your prediction. You need to get some variables out of your data which will be best giving you the answer. So first of all, we have best subset regression. Now what does it do? It finds for each k 0, 1, 2 to p, the p predictive variables, the subset of size k that gives the smallest residual sum of squares. Because we were doing this beta, in order to find, we need to minimize this, right? And then only we will be getting our best y here, which will be able to predict our data the best. Now in order to do that, in this case we are only taking those variables which will give us the smallest residual sum of squares, because that will give us the best prediction function from linear regression. But this thing has a problem. It is only tractable. You can only run it like if you have 30 to 40 variables, because it will be calculating so much. It will be trying each subset, so 2 to the power n. So going through all those subsets is going to be a problem. That is why only 30 to 40 variables you can easily handle in this. Now the next one is forward stepwise selection. In this case, what happens? It starts with the intercept. Now we remember that we had this beta naught here. This beta naught is the intercept. So in this, it starts from that intercept and then sequentially adds into the model the predictor that most improves the fit. Now how does it is like selecting those variables from our data? It only takes those variables which are giving us the best fit. And how do we understand if we have the best fit? If the new variable which is coming, if it is giving us the best reduction in residual sum of squares, then okay, we are taking that variable and putting it to our fit. Going the other way, you have something called backward stepwise selection. In this, what happens? You start with the full model. So you have a whole model. You have like created a model which is taking into account each prediction variable you have from 0 to p. And now it is sequentially deleting the predictor that has the least impact on the fit. So now it will be throwing each one of them out, and then it will be seeing that okay, which of this is useless. How do you understand if this variable is useless? It has least impact on fit. So your prediction accuracy or whatever metric you are using, if it has the least amount of change, then that variable will be thrown out. Now this is only applicable if n is greater than p. So the number of data, the amount of data you have, it should be at least, number of examples should be at least greater than p. Then only it can happen. Next we have forward stage-wise regression. Now this guy is very similar to this guy, stepwise selection, which we have learned above. But it starts like forward stepwise regression, like it is saying, with an intercept equal to y and centered predictors with coefficients initially all at 0. Now what is centered predictors with coefficient initially all at 0? That means you have standardized your data, okay? And now at each step, the algorithm identifies the variable most correlated with the current residual. How is this different? It is finding the correlation with the current residual. Okay, and this guy here was finding, okay, which one is improving my fit, and how was it like calculating the improvement of fit? By understanding, okay, which is giving me the least amount of change in my metric. So here correlation is used, here your metric is used. That is the difference. So this is one twist on linear regression, that okay, maybe you can take a subset of the independent variables you have in your data for the linear regression. Now there's another way which all of you must be definitely familiar with, the shrinkage methods. Now everybody knows ridge regression, lasso regression, but today let's go a bit further. So here in case of ridge regression, what do you have? You have your original equation for linear regression here, and you are like taking this is effectively RSS, and here you have a penalty, and based on this penalty it actually does the proportional shrinkage on your each of your beta j's. Okay, so it actually shrinks your beta j's, and that's why the name shrinkage methods. Now the RSS for this looks like y minus x beta t, y minus x beta plus lambda into beta t beta. A very interesting property for ridge regression is that it actually renders your metrics. So if I see the original RSS, it was just this guy, okay, and now I am putting this guy inside. Now when I put this guy inside, what it does is it makes this matrix full rank. What do I mean by full rank? Usually it may be the case when you're computing this matrix, some of the rows may be completely zeros, and if you take the echelon form and then if you take the rank of the matrix, the rank will be less than the number of columns in the whole matrix. But when you are doing ridge regression, that is no longer the case, because it is effectively adding once, it is actually identity matrix being added into this matrix. Now when this happens, no row of yours will be completely zero. The matrix will become full rank. And what is the utility of a matrix becoming full rank? The utility is that now you have a unique solution. And that was actually the original thought for creating this ridge regression. We have understood the properties about the shrinkage it is doing afterwards, but initially that was the problem people were trying to solve when they created ridge regression to make the matrix full rank. And that is something, to be honest, that was something only mentioned in this book. I haven't seen anywhere else. Next, we have lasso regression. Only one thing changes here, our penalty. Beta j square, instead of this guy, now we have absolute value of beta j. Now, what does this allow us to do? This means that now your beta j can become 0. So lasso regression is very much recommended when you're trying to do feature selection, because if some of your variables are not very good for your prediction, those will be thrown out by this lasso regression. And that is one of the reasons you should look at lasso regression if you're trying to do feature selection. So nothing changes here. From beta j square, you are going to beta j absolute value. Now let's compare everything we studied above. Now ridge regression does a proportional shrinkage. It is proportional to the lambda you have kept. And lasso translates each coefficient by a constant factor lambda. That is the lambda we were looking at, and it truncates it at 0. So this is called soft thresholding. So we are truncating our predictor, these independent variables, when they are no longer the coefficients, when they are no longer positive. So any coefficient which is having a negative effect on your prediction will be thrown out. So it's a kind of soft thresholding. You're not throwing out the variable, but you're just keeping the variable inside, but you're not throwing it out. So the variable is still there, but its coefficient, that will be 0. So you're not throwing out, and that is why it is soft. But in case of best selection, we are dropping all the variables which have coefficient smaller than the mth largest. So in subset selection, you will be keeping that, okay, if I have 100 independent variables, I only want 40. So 60 will be thrown out. They are directly thrown out, and that is why it is hard thresholding. The data is no longer entertained by the model itself. That's the reason. Now, and these shrinkage methods visually. If I look at, this is for lasso, because this is beta j absolute value. So this is for the absolute value, you get something like a rhombus, and this is for beta j square, a circle. This is for ridge regression. Now your solution exists at the point where these are touching each other. The solution always exists at this point, and that is why you see in case of this guy, this can be completely 0. Like it doesn't have a smooth value here. So the variables can go 0 here. So it has the ability to throw out variables, because here it is like this, and here it is a soft, it is a more continuous kind of a descent. But here it's not a continuous descent. It directly goes off. So here is your 0. If some beta coefficient comes here, then it can become flat at any point of time. So that's the reason, like, lasso is able to throw out the variables or make the coefficient 0, because it doesn't have to be very nice to the variables. It can directly throw them to 0. While here, ridge regression has to be kind to your various coefficients, because it has a more smooth descent towards 0. Now for the purpose of intuition, if you ever need to remember this, this is the famous painting from Michelangelo, God Touches Man. So this man right here, this, and your God, in case that becomes your data, or whatever you're trying to calculate centered at beta j. So it's a nice intuition for you to remember that, okay, the solution exists right here where the God touches man. Now we have something called elastic net. It is the best of both worlds. It has beta j square. It has that circular property. It is nice to variables, but it is also harsh to them. It can lead to 0 if it wants. Now what is this? LQ 1.2. If the original variable, if I take this beta j square and if I raise it to the power 1.2 and I remove all of this, then what kind of boundary I get? I get a boundary like this. And if I am using this elastic net, the boundary that I am getting is like this. There's a very subtle difference in the sense that this is a bit more sharp. Look at this point and look at this point. This has a more, this has a smooth decline, but this has a bit sharp decline. Quite difficult to see visually. Let me zoom a bit. Now, it has a smooth decline, it has a bit sharp decline, and that's the reason that elastic net is a bit kind to the very sorry, it's not a bit kind, but it has like the both the properties. So beta j square, it will be bringing the best properties of ridge regression, and it will be also bringing the best properties of lasso to your model. Now there are many models which are like, many models have been told about in this chapter, but these have the most utility. So ridge regression always gives you a best kind of model, a predictive model whenever you're trying to do regression on some variables. Elastic net will be doing the same, but it will be a bit better for your variables because obviously it has the properties of lasso. And what is the property of lasso? It helps you do some kind of feature selection. So whenever you're trying to apply these things in real life, look at ridge regression, look at elastic net. These are the guys which will be helping you out the most. Now, thank you for listening to me.